Well, there are many problems that are problematic, that threaten our lives. But today I want to speak about the problems that we have created with our relationship with nature. And these problems are both at the very small level and the other extreme at the largest level. At the smallest level, we have problems in our relationship with nature when it comes to a small park, a lake, a pond, and at the largest level, we have mistreated the atmosphere, the oceans. So those are global problems, covering the globe. But many of the problems are really very small at the local level. But these small problems, there are many, many of them, so together they make for a large problem. We have mistreated nature largely because we don't have to pay to make use of nature. Very often it is a free good. So because it's free, we overuse it. That is the problem. And if we overuse it, there is less left over for the future. This one is the hard one, because there are several levels at which we can do something to help. The one which people talk about is, in democracies, to work at the political level, to get government or local authorities to create incentives for us. By incentives, I mean make it more difficult to make use of nature so that it's no longer a free commodity. But I think the deeper way of solving the problem is for all of us, including young people, including children and teenagers, to try and learn something about the way nature works. Ecology is the subject which studies nature. Geography is a subject which studies nature. And I like to think we economists ought to study nature because we are borrowing from nature, and our relationship with nature is part of our economy. So I think ultimately, to solve the problems that we face, or at least reduce the problems we face, we ought to understand how nature works, how it responds to what we do to it. Unless we do that, we don't know what will happen to nature when we take action. So we do things in ignorance. And so education about nature is very important. I like to think now more and more that just as young people are encouraged to learn how to read, how to write, and how to do arithmetic, the 3 R's in England they call it, we ought also at the same time learn simple things about nature. And this education should not stop in 1 year or 2 years, but right through. I'm now quite old, but I'm still trying to learn things about nature by reading books, articles that ecologists, environmental scientists, climate scientists produce. There are plenty of easy things to read to get a sense of the way this incredibly complex tapestry of objects that factory outside out there produces goods for us. The air we breathe, the water we drink. And there are laws governing the way they operate. When I say they, I mean the bits and pieces of nature. We need to understand that, or at least learn more about it than we currently know. self-discipline is the first thing I would suggest. One reason we misbehave with respect to nature is that nature is mobile. By mobile, I mean it moves on its own free will. Now, you may think that can't be right because trees don't move, they sit fixed. But seeds move, birds fly, the wind blows, water flows. Movement means that if somebody damages it, it's very hard to check who has done the damaging, because the damaged good moves away to another place, and there is no sign saying who has damaged it or ill-treated it, that bit of nature. So it seems to me, government on its own cannot solve environmental problems. Local authorities cannot on their own solve environmental problems. At the end of the day, we have to discipline ourselves that we don't do things and get away with it just because nobody is watching. So if you walk on the street and nobody's there, but you have something you want to throw away, we should resist throwing it away. Keep it in our pocket and then put it in a rubbish bin when we come to the rubbish bin. That's a simple example. But it requires discipline to know that if we understand nature a little more, we should treat it with respect. And that doesn't come from government, taxes, or punishment. It has to be because you want to treat it well. The education process should never end. You start at age 4, 5, and even before, and you go on learning until you die. The point I think I was trying to emphasize is that in our education system, nature is not very important, does not appear frequently. If you read economics, you will not see anything about it. You will not read anything about it, or very little. And most of us don't know anything about the way the world works. We learn history, we learn mathematics, we learn science, physics, chemistry. But the internal workings of the various bits and pieces of nature and the way they relate to each other, we don't understand. And if we don't learn about it, we don't know what happens there if we damage something here. Because of the mobility, when I damage something here, this damage has an effect far away. It may be very small. Each of us is very small, so we can't damage nature too much. But remember, there are many, many of us, billions of us. So billion small damages make up for a big damage.